I am Anthony Newbold. Welcome to A Closer Look. My guest this week, the Minister of Works, the Honorable Desmond Bannister. Minister, welcome again to the show.
Thank you very much.
You, part of your portfolio, just finished debating that BPL rate reduction bond, and oh man, not very good response from the public. They accuse you of just bringing a tax on them.
I don't know that that is so.
That's the best way to handle what you're doing.
Members of the public who I spoke with were very pleased that something is finally being done after almost 20 years of virtual inaction. And so I didn't get that reaction at all. Secondly, nobody accused us of bringing a tax on, because those people who listened appreciated that there was a fee that was involved in the process. That fee, let me explain this. That fee was in the legislation which was drafted by the former administration. There is no difference from the fee as it was then to the fee as it is now, except for the fact that now the minister will have a discretion to lower that fee and to do some other things in relation to assist the members of the public.
To be clear, hold on a second for me. What you're doing now was actually done before by the former administration.
The former administration drafted the legislation, but they did not have the courage to bring it to Parliament and pass it.
Okay.
We have amended the legislation that they drafted, and we have brought it to Parliament, and we are going to bring relief to the Bahamian people. And that is the whole purpose of that rate reduction bond bill, because we have gone through too many years where the Bahamas has suffered, and Bahamians have suffered from inadequate power supply.
So this rate reduction bond will help to solve which problems at BPL?
There are many challenges that we face. The first, as you know, is the constant power outages that we face during the summer. BPL is going to have new state-of-the-art engines. And you would have heard me speak about, in Parliament, I spoke about the engines that are currently at BPL. Engines that date from 1960 to 2007. There's nothing more modern there than 2007. In 2 weeks, we're going to have 7 brand new Wärtsilä engines that are going online. Those engines represent 132 megawatts of power, which is almost the amount of power that we need to be able to take us through the summer. We need 250 megawatts. We are going to come back with a phase 2 Wärtsilä plan, where we're going to have another 90 megawatts of power. And then we also have a new General Electric engine coming in with 30 megawatts of power. And so we're going to have more than enough power to take us through any summer challenges we have. That's the first thing it's going to do. The second thing it's going to do is ensure that we can pay the existing debts of BPL. BPL owes $321 million, of which the government of the Bahamas has guaranteed. So you and I are liable for the debts of BPL. That debt is going to be paid. The government is not going to be obliged to pay BPL's debts anymore, and BPL is going to have to ensure that it pays its own bills. Another thing that we're going to do with this, and there's so many things, but another thing we're going to do is ensure that we have automatic metering. And so BPL is not going to continue to carry $90 to $100 million in receivables on a monthly basis, because you're going to pay as you go with the metering. And so people who move into apartments and then move out without paying the bills, or people who can't be found to pay bills, are going to be a thing of the past, because if you want power, you're going to pay for that power as you go. BPL is not longer going to be a credit agency for persons who do not want to pay their bills.
So what is that? How does that automatic metering work?
Well, it works the way for people. I think a lot of Bahamians have been in the UK and throughout Europe, and you simply you can utilize it online the way you would utilize a credit card. You can utilize it in any number of ways to ensure that the same way that you top up your phones, that you can top up your meter, and that you can have the power that you need in your meter to ensure that you have a month's supply, you have 2 months' supply, whatever amount of supply that you need, you will utilize. The other thing that I'd like to say that we are going to benefit from is the ability to fund solar energy in a number of the family islands.
Okay.
So BPL is raising money to be able to improve our electrical infrastructure throughout this country and to ease the burden on Bahamians.
Let me ask you this. You were just talking about BPL carrying receivables, $90, $100 million. How much of that is owed by the government?
On a regular basis, and through every administration, the government has failed and government agencies have failed to pay their due share. And what they do every year on a yearly basis at the budget, they seek to take BPL's bills, take the government's bills, and do one transaction. That can't work. We have made specific provision in the legislation that government and everybody else must pay their bills. And so there's no more Ministry of Public Works or any other ministry not paying BPL. If they do not pay BPL, they're going to be disconnected. But they have a legal obligation to pay.
Talked about the new engines, Wattsella. Talked about a couple of weeks. What's the position with those engines right now as we sit here?
Right now, this past weekend, we've been testing those engines, doing any number of tests, and they've been performing admirably. And I'm really excited about this because this is the first time in the past 2 decades that we've brought this much power online at any given time. This is going to be an absolutely wonderful experience for our country to be able to bring 132 megawatts online and to be able to have seamless, inexpensive energy to provide us with power. It's very exciting.
We got to talk some more about it, but we got to take a break, and we'll be back with more with the Minister of Works, the Honorable Desmond Bannister, after this. Welcome back. You're watching A Closer Look. I'm Anthony Newbold, and I'm speaking with the Minister of Works, the Honorable Desmond Bannister. Minister, we're talking about these shiny new engines that you're excited about, and everybody's excited about them because they don't want any more blackouts. How long are these engines, given proper maintenance, of course, how long are these engines expected to function properly?
Those engines are state-of-the-art. And so once they are properly maintained, we anticipate that they're going to give long service. But one of the things that I think it's important for all of us to appreciate is that we've been complacent for too many years in relation to energy production. And so in this country, we ought not to look for them to go their full lifespan. We ought to be looking at how often we are going to get engines and how often we are going to replace them with the kind of plans that we have to replace them, the kind of preventative maintenance plans that we have to ensure that they operate at their fullest potential, and continue to move with technology.
Yeah.
So as technology improves, we ought to be looking at ensuring that the Bahamas moves with it. We have not done that, not in the last 2 decades.
Yeah. This I know it's going to seem a little strange, but why was BPL created in the first place? We had BEC.
Yeah. You know, I asked myself that any number of times. BPL was created under the former administration. And BPL was created to take the powers and the functions of BEC and essentially to leave the debt, $300 and some million with BEC. The problem is this new company, BPL, still could not do anything, could not get credit, could not do anything because that debt was hanging over its parent company. So you created a company that was essentially a shell to take away the powers and functions of BEC. To some extent to make BEC more flexible, but we could have done that with legislation. And so the whole purpose of creating BPL is to some extent lost on me, but it is an entity that we have now that we are going to work with and utilize it as a company under the Companies Act. It also makes it amenable to regulation by IRCA, and perhaps more so than a corporation, but again, all of that could have been done by legislation. So we have a situation where we have a corporation and we have a company, and at some state, we're going to have to make some more decisions.
Talking about plants, generation, all the rest of that, you know, you've been here a couple of times. Our Facebook followers had some questions. One of them was, what's the situation with the Shell plant at Clifton?
Shell has made certain applications to the government, and those applications are being considered. And as soon as they are fully considered and Shell is informed, then we will continue. But I meet with Shell on a regular basis whenever they are in the Bahamas, and they are looking forward to being able to do business here.
And you referred to this briefly before, but this is another question that they're interested in. Why are we not focused on building a solar plant? We got all the sunshine in the world.
Well, let's remember that we are a small island. And the formula I think the engineers use is that you use 5 acres of land to create 1 megawatt of power.
Okay.
Now, just imagine that even at this time of year, we need 180 megawatts a day to operate the PPL.
Okay.
So you do the math and you can see that we need a tremendous amount of land in New Providence. What is interesting is that in places like Eleuthera, in places like Andros, there is sufficient land for us to be able to create the infrastructure we need for solar. And you see that BPL has put out a request for proposals on its web page, and we are going to proceed with solar energy in Eleuthera, in Andros, in a number of other islands. And that's going to help all of us as in New Providence, because it's going to lower our bill, because we subsidize power in those family islands.
How much of that will be dependent on the population of those islands? Do you need to have a lot of people on those islands, or you've got the acreage so you can do it?
We've got the acreage and we will do it. We know exactly how much power to produce. So one island may need 10 megawatts, one may need 5, one may need more. In a place like Ragged Island, where I understand that they have a population of maybe 20 people now, and 70 at its highest, we're going to seek to put in solar infrastructure at a commercial level, and this is important because we have the land available there, and we only need a few megawatts of power, and that is something that's very important. But I want to touch on something that is also critical for New Providence, and that is that any consumer of BPL can put solar infrastructure in on their homes and tie into the grid and benefit from that in 2 ways. Benefit from having cheap power come in, and also benefit from being able to essentially sell power back and get credit for the power that they send back to the grid.
And that's just something they can work out. Whomever wants to do that, they go work it out with BPL.
Yes, BPL has a wonderful program and a wonderful initiative in that.
BPL, rate reduction bond, that's the way to go. You're comfortable that this is something that you got to do and it's going to be done.
It has to be done. The ball has been kicked down the road for too many years, and we are going to be the ones who do it for the Bahamian people.
Let's go to Abaco for a minute.
Sure.
You were just recently in Abaco, looking at the cleanup up there, pigeon pea, mud, the farm. How's that going?
The pigeon pea has been finished.
Okay.
It's totally clean. It's cleared. Sandbanks are finished, cleared. All they need now is fencing to ensure that we don't get the wrong element in there. The mud is a bigger challenge.
Okay.
It's a huge area. If you go to Abaco, you'll see it's a huge area. I think they're about 60% finished in the mud. But you know, in the mud, just last week they found another 3 bodies.
Yeah.
And so we have to proceed very, very carefully. The farm is another challenge because there's some 70 families that may be living there. And so the contractors who were supposed to work on the farm have had their challenges, and they have not been able to work there. The Ministry of National Security and a number of other government agencies looking into how we can ensure that those contractors work as they ought to work. The remainder of Abaco has been cleared into zones, and there are contractors who are working in those zones to clear those zones. We have challenges in Marsh Harbor itself, Dunderstown, and we are doing some things there. One of the major challenges I think you ought to know is that when you have private property, and when the owners of private property are waiting for adjusters and insurers to come in, it is critical that we not interfere with that.
Yeah.
And so the infrastructure has to be cleared up over a period of time.
The major ones, and I think, yeah, you're concerned about the private interests. People generally want to know what's happening with those areas that house illegal immigrants. We talked about
Yes.
Farm, Pigeon Pea, the mud. Most of it is cleared up. Some you got to take your time. What happens with those areas afterwards? They're obviously vulnerable areas.
I can only speak to my vision.
Okay.
We're going to fence all those areas off, and the government intends to acquire them. But you know, the mud, Pigeon Pea, I just keep imagining a new town. I just keep imagining a new Marsh Harbor. I just keep imagining a modern city being built in those areas. And I can't get it off my mind. If we put all the building controls in place, if we look at how to build the structures and control the structures, the same way that they've been doing throughout Europe now and through a number of other areas, how we can have a phoenix rise in Abaco, this new city that can emerge out of the debris, out of where there was once just shanty towns. And it's only my vision, it's not a decision of cabinet.
Right.
But that is certainly a vision that as long as I'm here, I will push for, because I think there's wonderful opportunity for us to be able to have a new town, a new city, a new Marsh Harbor.
Let me, that area, especially the mud, for example, you don't consider that a vulnerable location, any more vulnerable than others, or you think the problem was the way the structures were constructed?
The two challenges. The mud was vulnerable to some extent because it had been low-lying area.
Right.
And secondly, because the structures that were there did not meet any of the standards that we require for structures in this country. And so when you go there now, all you see is rubble. But with modern standards being imposed, with the ability to build up, with the ability to fill in areas, there are wonderful opportunities and examples all over the world where people have done that. So we can utilize those vulnerabilities because we know them, and we can build to infrastructure that will be fairly secure in relation to that environment. I believe that is one of the ways that we can look at building a new city, and I do hope that we, at some stage, when we're through with the recovery process, that we consider it.
The debris, and you're cleaning up, where is it going?
The debris goes to what we call lay-down sites, goes to a number of sites, and not only do we clean them up, but we also separate them.
Okay.
And so they have what you call white waste, which would be refrigerators, stores, those types of things. You have any number of different types of waste. I think there may be as many as 6. All of those types of waste will be either shredded, if they're capable of being shredded and reused, or they will be exported out of this country. Because, you know, this export business for waste is a big thing worldwide. And there are persons who will actually pay you to take your waste elsewhere. And so we're looking at how that can be done most effectively. And I'm sure the Ministry of the Environment is well advanced in their plans.
Power generation for Abaco. Where are you with that?
Abaco is exciting. I'll tell you this. Abaco had a generation plant that had 4 12-megawatt engines.
Okay.
So you had 48 megawatts there, and then you had another 8 megawatts in Marsh Harbor. That was not ideal for the situation in Abaco. What we've been able to do is, first of all, restore power in the south of Abaco. And we could not, even though Wilson City plant, which has 48 megawatts, can be turned on today, the south only needed about 2 megawatts. And so you couldn't turn on those 12 megawatt engine to provide 2 megawatts in the south. So we put an engine in the south that is serving the south well. We put another engine in the north that is serving a portion of the north well. There's an area, so we have power going to Crown Haven. Now, there's an area a little south of Crown Haven that we need to get power on, and then we may have power on there in the next week or so. We have power in Little Grand Key. We have power in Moores Island. We have power in Green Turtle Key, even though we have to do some more things there. In Marsh Harbor, we have power at the airport. We have power at the clinic. We have power at the government complex, and we're moving to restore power to the supermarket there, which is required for the public. We have put in 50 solar lights in Marsh Harbor. So the Marsh Harbor itself is no longer dark. We're looking to get another 150 lights, so we can have lights throughout the city of Marsh Harbor. Spring City, I believe, is 98% finished. And then we have some challenges with some of the keys.
All right, but we can talk about the keys. Yeah. But we got to take this final break, and we'll be back with more with the Minister of Works, the Honorable Desmond Bannister, after this. Welcome back to A Closer Look. I'm Anthony Newbold, speaking with the Minister of Works, the Honorable Desmond Bannister. Minister, we were talking about Abaco. You're so excited about Abaco and what's happening there. You're in the Keys.
I'm excited because BPL has done a fantastic job. And CEO Whitney Hasty has been on top of everything and gotten it done. And I was just talking about the utilization of solar lights in Marsh Harbor. But as we get to the Keys, there was a challenge with the number of the Keys, and we ought to have had them on. But those Keys wanted underground infrastructure. Yeah. We have now indicated to them that we are going to proceed with providing the type of infrastructure they've had so that they can have power. Yes. We want them to be able to have power for Christmas. And then we can look at underground infrastructure, which is much more expensive as time goes on. We can look at their plans for it. So Elbow Key, which we have Hope Town, right, which had tremendous amount of devastation, and where there's an amazing initiative among the people, among the residents. Manawaki, which also has some challenges, and Treasure Key. The Treasure Key area, we need to go back up to Treasure Key and do some more work there. So all of those areas, we have a tremendous amount of work to do, but BPL is capable of providing power in all those areas prior to the end of the year.
Talking about BPL, PPL. You're here, I can't let you go without mentioning this most recent blackout. I guess it's part of, it's been happening so much. Tell me something about this whole.
It was disappointing. There was a cable fault not very far from here, actually, right in the Collins Avenue area. And that cable fault, as a result of that cable fault blowing up, you had the protection systems at BPL, which are outdated, did not act quickly enough. They did not come into play, and as a result, the system went down. Those are the types of challenges that we need this money to work with, this bond, because BPL has a history of transmission and distribution challenges. And I'll say a history, and I'll take you back. This is a document that was created by the former administration in 2015.
Okay.
And for those of us whose memories are short and who don't appreciate the historic nature of the challenges we face, this document outlines that there was emergency load shedding due to insufficient generation. It should not, and they indicated that should not occur on a daily basis as it had been doing been done. They indicated that in 2014, there were 585 user frequency-related events, resulting in some level of outages. 585. In addition to that, they indicated that there were 738 events where electricity customers suffered outages. In addition to that, they indicated that in that same year, there were 978 instances where there was loss of generation. And in that same year, on top of that, they had 90 events of complete system shutdown, complete island-wide shutdown, 90 events. So all of those events that I just mentioned occurred in 1 year in 2014. That's been the history, that's been the nature, that's what we've faced every year. That is what is going to stop as of 2020.
And you, again, you're talking about what's happening down there, Watsilla with the new engines. The island needs how many megawatts?
In the summertime, we need 250 megawatts on a regular basis.
On a regular basis.
These new generators are going to bring in 132. We have 140 megawatts of rental generation that we're going to start getting rid of, that we spend $2 million a month for.
Yeah.
We also have a 30 megawatt General Electric generator that's coming in brand new, spanking new. And then we have a new Watsilla plant that's going to start that will be finished in 2021 that will provide 90 megawatts with new engines. So we're going to have a total overhaul of our system, and we're going to be able to provide the type of generation we need for New Providence, not only for New Providence to continue to prosper, but for all of us to have inexpensive generation. And that's important to appreciate, that as we get new technology, as we get new generators, as we get inexpensive fuel, the price that we pay is going to decrease, and it's going to decrease by a lot, not just a little bit.
And this is, you're prepared to sit here and say, this isn't another one of those pie in the sky promises. We're going to get reliable electricity supply.
You have me on tape. And
on camera.
In 2 years, please, God willing, invite me back here so that I could gloat a little bit.
Okay. Thank you very much, Minister. And in 2 years, I think we will come back. We will invite you back to come and talk about this. Hopefully we'll have a show where you will say, I told you so. Thank you. Thank you for watching A Closer Look. Remember, you can watch us on Facebook and on YouTube.